Turn out different every time.
Every time.
Every time. How are you? Oh, girl. Play my day for the
Okay, before we start our regular meeting, I want to introduce Sarah Brown. She's White County Circuit Clerk candidate, and so she wanted to meet the people in Beebe. So let's just take an extra 5 to 10 minutes here, and if you have questions or with Sarah, or we need Sarah, go ahead, let's do that, and then we'll take up our regular agenda.
Anybody have any questions?
Why don't you just let us all know about the duties of the circuit clerk?
We are a split office. We have the recorder's office and the court department. In our court department, we take care of all felony cases, all domestic custody cases, all civil lawsuits. And in our recorder's office, we take care of filings of your land, mortgage, and securities, your liens, satisfactions of judgments, and those cases. I'm currently the only candidate that works there, so I greatly appreciate your support. If I can do anything for you, you need to call on the courthouse on the square. You might have to. I greatly appreciate your support.
Well, we thank you for coming here tonight.
Thank you.
Pleasure to meet you.
Cersei. Yeah, I grew up on a cattle farm just north of there. So Rob. Just a little town. But thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll go ahead and we'll start our meeting with a pledge and a prayer. So please stand. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father God, we thank you for this day, our daily bread. We thank you for being in the midst of this meeting, Father God. We ask that you protect our citizens and our department heads, Father God. Protect our mayor, Father God. And guide us and direct us in the way that you would have us to be, Father God. We thank you as we're going through this hardship at this time, Father God, that you will strengthen us. In the name of Jesus, we thank you and give you praise in Jesus Christ's mighty name. Amen.
Amen.
Alderman Tucker,
Here.
Alderman Goff,
Here.
Alderman Holmes,
Here.
Alderman Woods, here, Alderman Lightfoot,
Here.
Alderman Anthony. Here.
Go ahead.
All right, you have the water department financials that were provided in the package.
Motion approved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, clerk treasurer's items. We had 2 sets of minutes. The one from the December meeting and the one from the January meeting that we just had.
Motion to approve both sets.
Sorry. I have a motion.
Second.
A motion is second to approve the December 27th, 2021 and the January 17th, 2022 minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The treasurer's report, any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the treasurer's report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so last month, you asked me to kind of look over COVID policies from different places, which I did. I also pulled something from the league that they did. And I just kind of came up with something on my own, and I'm just gonna throw it out there. It won't hurt my feelings if you don't like it, but we gotta get somewhere started here. So kind of pulled stuff from different, cities, a lot of cities have nothing. So, so what I did find, I just kind of pulled together and, kind of went by CDC guidelines. So here's what I think, I have showed this to the mayor, just so I swear it. For the year of 2022, each employee will get 15 days of COVID pay that they can use, either full or part-time. Either they're full or part-time employees will get 15 days of COVID pay that they can use for COVID leave. If an employee uses more than their 15 days, then at that time they have to go into their sick time or vacation time. We also obviously will offer them family medical leave. Here are the guidelines. If exposed to COVID, if you have an exposure to COVID, if an employee is exposed to COVID that has no symptoms, they can test to stay at work, which is what the school does. They test to stay. If you do not want to test, because there are some people that do not want to test. If you do not want to test, then you must quarantine for 5 days. If on that fifth day, you must test then to return back to work. Either way you would test, but you can't quarantine 5 days if you choose to. If you test positive for COVID, first you have to provide the clerk treasurer, because I keep the files for medical, with a positive test result. You have to prove that you are positive. Second, you must quarantine for 5 days. After the 5 days, as long as you are symptom-free, you may return back to work and wear a mask for additional 5 days. On the fifth day, if you are symptom-free, but you do not want to wear a mask for the additional 5 days, then you must test to return back to work. So that's kind of what I've come up with. I kind of feel this takes care of. There are several of us sitting here who've had COVID, between 2020, whatever years we're in now, and 2022. It seems like we've been forever in COVID. So that's just kind of what I've come up with, but we're gonna have to come somewhere. We're gonna have to start somewhere. So this is what I wrote down, just to start somewhere. I mean, but.
I like everything going on, but I do have a question.
Yeah.
So where you said that if you're close contact and you don't want to test, you got to quarantine for 5 days. So if somebody chooses not to test, I don't think we should be paying COVID pay at that time. I think it should be, I don't think the COVID pay should go in until, if they test, yes, we could pay them.
Okay.
But if they choose not to test and just to quarantine for 5 days, I believe that sick time should be used right there. Because that's their choice.
And that was my point last week when we discussed it. And let me ask for clarification.
Yeah, sure.
If they don't test and they self-quarantine for 5 days, but they have to test to return to work, correct?
Only after 5 days.
After
10 days, you don't have to test, period.
Yeah.
after that first 5 days,
After that first 5 days, they can return back to work and wear a mask.
if they don't want to wear a mask,
They have to test.
So if they test positive after that first 5 days, then it's another 5 days.
Yes.
So essentially, like if we do the 15 days,
Yeah.
they're getting 10 paid days.
Yeah.
I agree with Mr. Duggar, and that was kind of what I was trying to say last week.
Okay. So the
Is this vaccinated or not vaccinated?
I did not clarify in there, vaccinated or not vaccinated. I don't know about the majority of the employees. I know who's vaccinated and who's not up here at City Hall, but I don't know about any place else. I do know that
Policy put in place.
I do know that CDC guidelines state that if you are fully vaccinated and you have no symptoms, but you have been exposed, you can return back to work as long as you wear a mask.
So that's why I asked.
And I don't have a problem being the tough guy and asking those questions. I need to see your vaccination card. I don't have a problem doing that. So it's just what kind of guidelines do you want me to be put in place about fully vaccinated people? I mean, I don't know. I know
what are the legalities on that? Like, are you allowed to ask? Because everything changes so often.
That I don't know. I would need to find that out. I don't want to speak out of turn on that.
You can ask them,
Okay.
you can enforce them.
Apparently restaurants can ask us,
Yeah,
so,
you can ask them.
so.
That's the rule.
I mean, most employees who are vaccinated know, because we've all had conversations.
I mean, do we want to change the policy based on the vaccination, I guess would be the next question, if we are to refer to that. I mean, I'm just asking.
The one thing with my understanding with this Omicron variant is that fully vaccinated people are getting COVID. So, I mean, fully vaccinated, like with a booster, so are getting COVID, so I don't know. You know,
It's about protecting the other people.
I
That's why
I
asked
agree,
that.
I agree.
That's why I asked that, because
So,
if you vaccinated and boosted, if you don't have any symptoms, you can wear a mask and come to work. 'Cause
yeah,
that's why I missed the last meetings, because we were actually in the building.
I mean, we got department heads out there, y'all speak up, I mean.
I mean,
You're saying they're
I
vaccinated,
didn't
just
want to put
leave them, let them,
anybody in
like, wear a
danger.
mask, and
Right,
just let them work.
right. If you vaccinate, you
Yeah.
can. That's the guideline.
One that's the same with, in the schools, after 5 days, kids can return to school and wear a mask for the next 5 days.
That's the way it is, yeah.
That's kind of took people from the school.
But I think this is good.
So you're saying that if an employee is exposed to COVID, but they're fully vaccinated, and they can prove they're fully vaccinated, they can return to work?
As long as they're not showing symptoms, that's CDC guidelines.
Okay,
But I agree with Mary about the pay.
Yeah, I think everything's good. I mean, if somebody, if they test and they've been exposed and they have to go home for 5 days, if they're not fully vaccinated, they have to go home for 5 days. Then, yeah, I agree that they should get paid. But if somebody chooses not to test and to self-quarantine, then that should be sit down.
I agree with that. So if you motion it, I'll second. Do we need that?
I just want to make sure we got the clarification. I just want to make sure we're right here. Okay, so if you're exposed to COVID, if an employee is exposed to COVID and has no symptoms, they can test to stay at work, they can test to work. If they are fully vaccinated, they do not have to test?
No, they don't have to. The CDC says.
Okay,
The only reason they would have to test if they showed symptoms.
and they can return right back to work. Okay. If an employee is not fully vaccinated and chooses not to test, they must quarantine 5 days, but we are not gonna pay them. They can take their sick time, personal day, use their vacation time. All right. After the 5 days, on the 5th day, they can test to return back to work. Leave that in there or take that out?
I mean, they didn't test to come to work, so,
Okay, so take that out.
so I don't think they're going to then either.
Okay, so they must work on that.
But they may want to test after they find out that they're gonna have to use this sick pay.
Okay. All right, then if they tested positive for COVID, they have to provide you with the positive test results. And they must quarantine for 5 days. After the 5 days, as long as they're symptom-free, they can return back to work and wear a mask for an additional 5 days. If they don't want to wear the mask, on the 5th day, they can test to return back to work. If they test negative, then they can come back to work without a mask. Are we good on that?
Can I ask one
Uh-huh.
question? The 5 days, or 15 days total COVID pay.
Yeah.
Now that's scheduled days, there's on their normal work schedule. So say they have to quarantine on a Thursday, it would count, and let's say Monday through Friday work. They would get paid for Thursday, Friday, and Monday. It wouldn't pay them for.
Right, because they don't work at all.
Yeah,
So that would be like us up here at City Hall, you know, we work Monday through Friday shift, so.
And I think we ought to put in there, or just throw this out there, that are we gonna accept a home test positive, or do they have to have a test from the doctor? Or does it not? Are you gonna accept either way? If they can prove to you that you have, if they tested positive. Because a lot of people are doing the home kits and they're positive. And so what we do is, if they are, we treat them with medicine. But some jobs require them to come to the office and be tested before they turn back to work. So
I go, actually, they're testing now, I go,
So
so we have a nurse.
will
on
you
site there and
accept
they're
a
testing.
positive home test? Because that's what a lot of people do.
What y'all think?
I
I
don't
haven't
know
done
about
those home tests, so I don't know.
I don't have a problem with it. I just want to make sure that's thrown out there so.
I do know that the health department will do it for free.
I would assume that they go to the health department,
It's free.
Burroughs doesn't.
My thought is, I just don't know how much I trust those home tests.
Well, having work out there, they're probably about 85% good. Yeah. Yeah. If I think that,
That's gonna be y'all's call, I'll do whatever y'all want me to do, I just know it's not going away, so. that makes sense.
So that's why I'm saying,
If they take a home test and they test positive,
The problem is, I guess, yeah, I think it's like, I mean, if somebody wanted to test positive or whatever, you get somebody else's test and send you a picture, right? So if I knew say I had a friend that wanted 5 days off, I'm not saying anybody can see it. Just saying, you go get a positive test and say, okay, I got the next 5 days off. I'm not saying anybody would do that, but if a doctor, you got for.
So we'll
I'm just saying,
require
I
health
think this is
department,
happening.
oh, okay.
Doctor,
I see what you're
The
saying.
schools are, the kids are.
Yeah.
So that's-
oh, they
so
would.
that's- yeah, I know you're shocked. But that would be my concern.
Alright, so we'll just require, yes, sir.
I'm not sure, but I think you're talking about going to the health department, then it take 3 days to get results back from the.
Nope, 15 minutes.
From the health department, oh, that's good, I didn't know, I thought they.
Yeah.
I thought it was 3 days.
I think the PCR they send off.
The PCR they will send off, and it took me 2 days to get mine back,
Yeah.
but they'll do a rapid right there too. They do both tests.
Good, okay.
And the urgent care here in town also, they
Well,
do
you're
the
pretty
rapid
accurate, man.
tests, but they also
Nope.
do send off to.
It was not accurate, I will tell you that. The health department's test, I tested negative on the rapid and positive on PCR, but I knew I had. There was no doubt in my mind.
that's one of the problems.
I will
have
say
with
that.
the home test.
But the PCR, I mean, but here's the thing, PCR, if you chose to go get a PCR test, you're getting paid COVID pay. The only way you're not gonna get paid COVID pay is if you chose not to be tested.
Correct.
So it's still, whether you're off 1 day or 3 days,
I think it's great.
Okay, so then the other thing is, obviously this is not in our budget. Obviously, we can't take this out of the American Rescue Plan money. Do I need to be holding that money aside right now in the American Rescue Plan money to cover any of this?
Yeah, that's one of
Is
the
that really
things
what we
that
know with this? Okay.
Carol and I discussed today. And rescue plan money, we received, I'm gonna round this off, $800,000. I've heard all kinds of figures, but the city received $800,000. We've estimated and obligated around $200,000 for water and wastewater thus far. So if you would, you reserve some of this money and set it aside for COVID pay and whatever amount you think is adequate. And then the remaining money, what I would like to see is us hold it and see if they change any of the rules for unrestricted funds. And then if everything is going back to normal, we have the funds available. What I would like to see is use these funds for, I know that we have a traffic signal light at Main and Beebe Henry, and we have one at McCon and Beebe Henry. And we've had lots and lots of requests for left turn signals. And that is very, very expensive, as you may know, if you go in for a grant, You're 3 years out normally, to get, funding and for the construction work. So, I think if they start using this money for unrestricted funds for, infrastructure, then we can use these funds for that.
Carol, you got a roundabout idea how much we should put that?
So I can kind of tell you what we've done so far, if that'll be helpful to you. You mean as far as what we paid out of COVID pay? Sorry, okay. So, the last two pay periods, we didn't have any pay period at the end of December. So it's the pay period that we're currently in. We hadn't received everybody's time sheet yet, but so far what we have. And then the pay period before, which was January 14th payday. We've had approximately about 8 employees. Some of them were interactive between the two pay periods. About 8 employees that have had COVID, approximately about 490 hours they've been out of work. And the potential cost would have been about $9,000 for COVID pay.
So we could set aside $50,000. Just,
I think
the rest of the money would be there if we ever had, huh?
I think we need more than that.
You think we need more than that? I'm just saying the rest of the money's there though, in case we need to pull from it. That's just something to set aside for.
Would y'all be okay with restricting $200,000?
Yes, that's kind of the figure I had in my mind, was about.
Okay.
200.
And then, we can always come back with money left over. 200 that divides our money up pretty good. And I think that would cover, if we go with infrastructure funds, then I think that would probably cover the cost of what, if we decide more than one.
Okay, so, and then y'all are good with 15 days now. Question is, are we gonna go back to the first of the year? We have had employees off January 1st.
Yeah, well,
Give them the option of using their sick time or taking the COVID pay? Or is this gonna be from now forward?
Test?
That's what, I don't know. I haven't seen any test results.
Well, I think there's a possibility, Carol, that we might pay some of these people already.
Not paid them, we paid them.
Well, but we went ahead and paid them our normal pay for work.
That's correct. We paid them sick
Even
time.
though they were out sick with
Yeah.
COVID, we have went ahead and funded
No, we made them take it out of their sick time.
other sick time.
If they didn't have sick time, they had to take vacation, and they had to take a personal day.
I mean, that's this money's for. I mean, I feel it'd probably be fair to
reimburse.
reimburse them 60.
Just take it back to January 1st.
Yeah.
If they're able to provide, their test results or back when they tested positive and all that.
I guess continue that.
Honestly, he had 3 on the worst part. This time.
It's January 1st, no? Yeah. This will, I'm assuming this will include the water department.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
I'll shift the guidelines to you. So,
Yeah, I think we just give them back their sick time if they,
okay,
they've already been paid, we just give them back their sick time.
yeah. Okay, so, when we reread these again for everybody? Okay. So each employee will get either full or part-time, will get 15 days of COVID pay for the year of 2022. At the end of 2022, then we'll revisit. Hopefully, we won't have to revisit. If an employee uses their 15 days, then they must use their sick or vacation for the rest of the time off. Guidelines, exposure to COVID. If you are exposed to COVID, if an employee is exposed and has no symptoms, they can test to stay at work. We won't send them to the house. If they are fully vaccinated, they do not have to test. They can just keep on working as long as they have no symptoms. If you do not test and you're not fully vaccinated, then you must quarantine for 5 days. If you test positive for COVID, you have to provide the clerk treasurer, because I keep the medical records of a positive test result, You must then quarantine for 5 days. After the 5 days, as long as you are symptom-free, you may return back to work and wear a mask for an additional 5 days. On the 5th day, if you do not want to come to work without a mask, if you don't want to wear a mask at work, you have to test to return to work. Now, if you refuse to test and you're not fully vaccinated, we will not pay you for the time off of the exposure. Correct?
And what happens if after 5 days, they go and test again and they get a negative test? Do they still have to wear a mask?
I would say no.
I'll put that in a motion.
Again, I do have another question, I just got brought to my attention. What if an employee takes off, because the kids have COVID? That's what you think for that.
So
It's just a
the way
hypothetical, we can keep going on.
I started saying,
I mean,
FMLA kicks in and you gotta use vacation time,
yeah, I mean, if they don't test.
what happens? But it don't matter, it's not you, once it breaks into your family, then you're exposed, obviously, if they're positive. And then it would go into you. But as far as, hey, my kid's got it, and I have to stay home, FMLA kicks in, and you're supposed to use vacation time.
that's what I have to do.
That's what I have to do.
So this is only for the employee themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure we got that. We have a motion by Alderman Decker.
I'll second that.
I'm gonna call the roll on this, guys. Yes. Alderman Duggar,
Yes.
Alderman Goff,
Yes.
Alderman Mahoney,
Yes.
Alderman Woods,
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot,
Yes.
Alderman Anthony. Yes. Thank you all very much.
Was the 200,000 in that, or do we need another motion for
Then
that?
I just added to that.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, the last thing I have, it's up to you all if you want to talk about it or not. Josh Kerr, who's a CPA here in town, sent us a proposal about doing a financial audit for the city as opposed to doing a legislative audit, as opposed to us going with legislators. Legislative audit, sorry. Obviously, if we use Josh Kerr, it would be a cost to the city. The legislative audit is free. Josh Kerr strictly, I mean, he sent you a proposal there, you know, it's truly a scope of financial is what he does, you know, where, and, you know, where the legislative audits get into other matters, other things. Time frame would be, you know, a legislative audit can last somewhere from, you know, approximately 3 to 6 months, depending on what they're looking at and what they're doing, where, you know, Josh will not take that long. Most of his will not be on site. He'll have to come on here, you know, every once in a while, but he will not be on site. Legislative, and actually, the legislative auditors are not on site right now either because they're covered policy and it's just prevented them from coming back on site. But
I just know that when we were bossing the water department, we brought this up and we talked down about it. Why are we paying for something that's free? I don't know why we would want to do that.
this
That's
is
just
just
me
sent to the
speaking.
mayor and I, and we felt like we needed to.
That's just what I had to say.
That is no problem. It's just we just have to bring it to you up, give it to us, so. Mayor, that's all I have at this time.
All right, and, the next one I'll bring you a report on the ending of the financial statement for 2021. Tonight, we need to discuss, chapter 2.2 of the Code of Ordinances, the city council organization of the governing body. And, it has been, brought up a few months ago, if we had an ordinance for our organization or our council meetings, which we do have one. But, okay, if the Arkansas Code cites that members of the governing body elected for each city or town shall annually in January assemble and organize the governing body. A majority of the whole number of members of the governing body constitutes a quorum for transaction of business. The governing body shall judge the elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members. These judgments of the governing body are not subject to veto by the mayor. The governing body shall determine the rules of its proceedings and keep a journal of its proceedings, and the journal shall be open to inspection and examination of the citizens. The governing body may also compel the attendance of absent members in such a manner and under such penalties as it prescribes. The governing body may consider the passage of rules on the following subjects, including without limitations, the agenda of the 4 meetings, the filing for resolutions and ordinances, citizen commentary. In a mayor council form of government, the mayor shall be the ex officio president of the city council preside at the meetings. The mayor shall have a vote to establish a quorum of the city council at any regular or special meeting of the city council, and when his or her vote is needed to pass any ordinance, bylaw, resolution, ordinance, or motion. In the absence of the mayor, the city council shall elect the president to preside over the council meetings. If the mayor is unable to perform the duties of office or cannot be located, one of the following individuals may perform all functions of the mayor during disability or absence: the city clerk, another elected official of the city, if designated by the mayor, or an unelected employee or resident of the city if designated by the mayor and approved by the city council. Okay, so in our codification book, we had an FOI recently about did we have a order of business. And so in our order of business, we have a call to order, we have a roll call. If you look at your agenda, this is what we go by. Reading of minutes of the previous meeting, reports of boards and standing committees, reports of special committees, unfinished business, new business, adjournments, announcements and adjournment. Okay, so each year annually to bring this to you, and you decide if you want to continue in this manner of business that we have been conducting under for the many, many years, since this would be since 1998, I believe. And so if you want to change anything to this outline or add or take away, so be it.
We'll make a motion, we'll keep it the way it is.
I second.
There's nothing in here about the attendance of council persons either. So, I mean, somebody that come to work in one of our departments, they don't get compensated, so there's nothing about that in here.
I thought we did have something to that effect at one of us.
What if of course, with COVID, if the meetings attended not in person due to, COVID
I think
related?
you're in attendance, you can do it by
Zoom.
Zoom,
manner, or
I know I've attended some meetings due to COVID via phone, and I think everybody except for Mr. Mahoney has attended a meeting via Zoom due to COVID related issues. Would that constitute being present in one corner for her session? Or didn't,
this is my duty to present it to you. If you're happy with it, or if you want to add or take away. By statute, it almost present it.
So in order to set up now, because there's no more guidelines, no more federal mandates, in order to set up a Zoom meeting, You have to have that by ordinance done. And it cannot be a phone. You have to, the public has to be able to interact with you, just like they would at a council meeting. It was different in 2020. Thank you, Chris.
The past 2 years.
Yes, it was different in 2020 because things were just different then. But that is all gone away now. And they are recommending that we do more things by Zoom, but it has to be, you have to be able to interact with the public. You can't just do a one-way thing.
I don't know if the majority agrees, but I think we should probably have that in place just in case.
Would you like me to explore that and pull some ordinances from municipal league and see what they have?
Hopefully, we're over that, but.
Okay.
I know the city of Cabot, I think their meeting is tonight as well, and they were actually, it was on their agenda to reenact, excuse me, an ordinance for council members to attend via Zoom because of.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know. I mean, we were all given an iPad, but that's, you can zoom on that.
We have a motion by Alderman Duggar and a second by Alderman Anthony to keep the guidelines in place that are in our codification book. Yeah.
Are you saying you would like to amend the motion?
If Carol could explore, municipal league guidelines.
I think you would. You made the motion.
I made the motion, but I don't think that the motion had anything to do with the Zoom meeting. The motion has to do with keeping the way it was.
The ordinance service.
You have to have a different,
Well, I think that when you keep it the way it was, then you're saying there's no rules for attendance.
oh, okay. We want rules for attendance this time?
Do you recall anything about that in the past?
I recall that
$70% of the time, or
it was discussed, but I don't think anything was ever placed in any type of ordinance form. We did discuss it one year.
okay, maybe that's what I'm recalling.
And is that, okay, so when you start adding attendance on there, which I have no problem with, I mean, I'm at all the meetings anyway.
If I'm sick,
But-
I'm not coming.
but-
I'm not gonna think about it agrees with the COVID because I work at the doctor's office, but I'm like you, I don't have a problem with it.
But then you're gonna bring up another thing, is that gonna count for special meetings? There's some months we have 5 or 6 meetings a month, it was just one. And when, I know the quorum, the White County, when they do that, they also have a thing where if you don't come to your meeting, you don't get paid. Okay, but they have a thing where they have a special meeting, they pay you more. So I'm just throwing that out there. I know that happens. I have no problem with,
Well, okay. All right, we have a motion on the floor then, keep it the way it is, motion second. So let's vote on that, and if it fails, then we'll talk about the other.
Roll call. Alderman Duggar,
yes.
Alderman Goff,
Yes.
Alderman Mahoney,
Yes.
Alderman Woods,
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot,
Yes,
Alderman Anthony.
Yes.
Okay. All right, the next thing that I have to talk about would be that, we need to discuss and determine the position of city attorney as appointed or elected for the election of 2022 and moving forward into 2023. We do not have a current city ordinance addressing the duties, the salary, defining the position as appointed or elected. Now, Act 609 in 2019 amended the law concerning a city attorney in certain mayor council cities. The last ordinance defining this position was codified in 1974. 2003, it amended the salary. 2015, it amended the salary. The last elected city attorney was in 2015, and to my knowledge, is the only attorney that has not been appointed. The current city attorney and prosecuting attorney are appointed with separate duties, which has worked very well for all parties. Now, having said that, I would like for the members of the police department to speak on the separation of powers, because we're talking about two different things here. We're going to discuss appointed city attorneys, elected city attorneys, and a prosecuting attorney versus city attorney. And so, Captain Dixon, you're familiar with the internal workings, and I think the advantage of separation of attorney and prosecuting attorney, and I think Chris O'Neill is here with us, and also that Bo Knob just separated the duties of the city attorney and prosecuting attorneys. So, Baron, we've had this for about 3 years now. If you want to speak on that.
I think that I think we as a department are satisfied with the attorney that we have now. He does a good job. He shows up, he answers questions. He fulfills FOI questions. We had, sometimes we get some pretty extensive FOI requests. He's always made himself available to answer those. As far as separating the city attorney duties from prosecuting duties, I think that's a good idea, because separates the civil litigation from criminal litigation. Prosecutor's job is to seek justice. You shouldn't be worried about any potential civil ramifications for enforcing the law. So I think as from the department standpoint, we're satisfied with our prosecuting attorney, and we would like to keep them.
Keep them separated?
Keep them separated and keep the one we have.
Yeah, I'd like to second that. From the code enforcement standard,
Thank you.
Yeah, Chris, you experienced this with Bo Knob.
No, I have. Bald Knob recently Don Rainey was the city attorney and the prosecutor in Bald Knob. Bald Knob just recently, within the last month, retained me as the city attorney, while Mr. Rainey is going to keep the prosecution in that town. I've had the pleasure of working with this police department, working with this district court since 2019. I think I've established a very good working relationship with them. We've prosecuted thousands of cases through that district court every single year. And I've enjoyed being on call with the police officers. Most of the officers know that if they're out there and they have a question, they're welcome to call me at any point in time. I know them all. They all call me. And it's just been a pleasure serving in this capacity for the city, and I would like to continue serving in the future.
Okay, now, and I know we're going to take a break here in just a minute, and I'm going to pass out a couple of ordinances here and for your review, but we do have to handle this. We are going to have to make a decision. Okay, this is the most recent act, and it's Act 609, and it was enacted in March of 2019. The last election we had for an elected was in 2015. And this is how it reads. It says, the city attorney in mayor council cities of fewer than 10,000, if not established by ordinance, that the office of the city attorney will be appointed, the qualified voters of the cities of the first class having a population of fewer than 10,000 and having the mayor council form of government shall elect a city attorney for 4 years on the Tuesday following the first Monday in November 2022, and every 4 years thereafter. An incumbent city attorney will continue in office until his or her successor is elected and qualified. If no attorney residing in the city is elected as city attorney, the city council may appoint a resident attorney to fill the office for the remainder of the unfilled term. If no attorney of the city serves as city attorney by election or appointment, and if no attorney resides within the municipal boundaries of the city, then upon a 2/3 vote of the city council may contract with any licensed attorney of the state or the licensed attorney's law firm to serve as legal advisor, counselor, or prosecutor. The duties of an attorney under contract shall be prescribed by ordinance. Now, I sent out a question to Laney Richmond at the Arkansas Municipal League. And the question was, if the city desires to make the city attorney an appointed position as outlined in Arkansas Code annotated 1442-122, may the city omit prosecution in court and contract separately with the city attorney duties with an appointed city prosecutor. Mayor, I believe the city could perform this action. The statute applicable to the first-class cities is Arkansas Code annotated 1443-313, which states that the duty shall be established by ordinance. But this does not list any duties. However, the city of the second class does provide a comprehensive list that you could pick and choose from. Arkansas annotated 1442-112. So we do, let's take a little break, get us something to drink. We'll hand out these ordinances. And Josh, I know you're here tonight, you're interested, but this is a matter that we've got to put something in place. So we'll look at these. You're welcome to copies, and we'll go from there. If we can establish some duties and outlines, and I know we have nothing for salary. Last time we had salary was in 2015. However, there was an increase in salary that was to be done by ordinance, which was, however, was never done. The previous city attorney did not do it by ordinance. And there was minutes saying that we would revert back to the previous salary. And so we need something in place. Let's take a break and then we'll get to
Yeah, that's gonna happen.
February.
Is the house big enough for all of us?
Yeah.
I'll raise chickens.
I love February.
Thank you, whoever did this.
Hold on to his name.
Oh, that's in the corner.
Okay, y'all ready, we'll review
No, we're gonna cut
this. We have an ordinance, establishing the office of city attorney for the city of Beebe shall be filled by appointment. All right, it says whereas Arkansas Code 1442-122 provides that cities of the first class having a population of fewer than 10,000, having mayor, council, form of government may fill the position of city attorney by appointment rather than by election if established by ordinance. Chapter 2.32 of the Beebe Code of Ordinances provides that the position of the city attorney shall be filled by election unless the elective office of city attorney for any reason becomes vacant, in which event the city council of the city of Beebe City shall appoint a city attorney. Whereas the office of city attorney will best promote familiarity with the issues in the city of Beebe, as well as ensure a strong working relationship with legal counsel and administration and the city council if the position of city attorney is filled by appointment rather than by election. Whereas the interest of the city and the citizens will be best served by filling the office of city attorney by appointment. Now therefore be ordained by the city council, the office of city attorney is hereby established as an appointed position. The office of city attorney shall be filled by appointment by the mayor, subject to the approval by a majority of the city council, and the city attorney may be removed from office at any time upon majority vote of the council. The city attorney or any deputy city attorney appointed pursuant to section 6 herein need not reside in the city of Beebe, Arkansas, or in Pike County. Section 3, the city attorney once appointed may resign as city attorney at any time. Section 4, the office of city attorney is not a term position, but instead the city attorney may continue to serve as such until he or she resigns or is removed by the city council by a majority vote. Section 5, the city attorney is general legal counsel to and on behalf of the city of Beebe and its officials. The responsibilities of the city attorney are general in nature. However, the following duties are specifically within the purview of the city attorney duties. Advise the mayor, the city council, members of the city boards, commissions, and other city officials in all legal matters pertaining to city operations and interests. Represent the city of Beebe in all legal matters that result in litigation before local, state, federal courts, and administrative boards. Prepare ordinances and resolutions that come before the city council for consideration. Attend city council, staff, and other meetings when necessary. Draft and review contracts, agreements, leases, and other legal documents pertaining to city affairs. Respond to EEOC charges and requests for information. Respond to requests under the Arkansas Freedom of Information Act. Update policies and orders to maintain compliance with changes in state and federal laws. Work with outside counsel retained by city for preparation of bonds and litigation. Section 6, subject to the approval of the mayor and city council, the city attorney may appoint one or more deputy city attorneys for the purpose including but not limited to duties set out in section 5 above. Any such appointments and duties associated with the same shall be set out in a separate agreement approved by the mayor and city council. Section 7, the city attorney is permitted to maintain and participate in a private law practice, but shall not do so in a manner that conflicts with his or her duties assigned herein. The compensation of the city attorney shall be negotiated by the mayor and city attorney, subject to final approval by the majority of the city council. A separate agreement prescribing compensation, other fees, expense, non-statutory benefits to be paid to such appointed city attorney shall be entered into and approved by the mayor and city council. All ordinances and provisions therein consistent with this ordinance are hereby repealed. Okay, that's an appointed ordinance for city council that is designated under Arkansas Code 1442-142 as adopted in 2019. Marion, I think you had to say something else about that, just wanted to do.
I didn't realize that I was gonna be asked about that, but I think me and Chief discussed it before. One of the biggest benefits of having an appointed prosecutor is the lack of connection and the lack of benefits that people get from their connection with the city attorney. Having one from out of town, everybody's treated the same in court, which is what I think everybody would want. Everybody says that's what they want to try. Anyway, everybody to be treated the same, doesn't have any kind of personal connections to the city, and I think that ensures that everybody.
I lean up, I'm gonna have to agree with you, baby. That's a first. That's a first.
We all have a personal opinion. My personal opinion is I'm thankful for the court system we have, and that includes our judge and prosecutor, and I think together that overall everybody is treated the same. It'll be the same, I was there, the same that you were there.
I agree. I agree with being appointed and being out of the city limit. It does cut down on the political, choose my word carefully, but I agree with that. That puts you at a less likely of showing favoritism. So, far as I'm concerned, I agree with.
And then you'll be able to decide at that point. So, as it says in 1442 in the Southern Proposal, 1442-122, says the same thing, that provides cities with a first class having a population of fewer than 10,000 and having the mayor, council, form of government may fill the position of city attorney by appointment rather than election if established by ordinance. Sorry, I'm reading, but it's the same wording. Okay. If not established, whereas if not established by ordinance that the office of city attorney will be appointed a qualified voter to the city first class having a population of fewer than 10,000 and having the mayor, council, form of government shall elect the city attorney for 4 years on the Tuesday following the first Monday in November 2022 and every 4 years thereafter. Whereas an incumbent city attorney shall continue in office until his or her successor is elected and qualified. If no attorney residing in the city is elected as city attorney, the city council may appoint a resident attorney to fill the office for the remainder of the unfilled term. Whereas if no attorney of the city serves as city attorney for election or appointment, or if no attorney resides within the municipal boundaries of the city, therefore 2/3 vote, the city council may contract with any licensed attorney of the state or licensed attorney firm to serve as legal advisor or counselor. Now therefore be ordained by the city council of the city of Beebe, Arkansas, the office of city attorney is established under 1442-122. The city attorney's responsibility is to provide legal counsel to on behalf of the city of Beebe and officials as being necessary. Responsibilities are general in nature. However, the following duties are within the purview of the city attorney duties as requested. Advise the mayor and the city council members and city boards, commissions, and other city officials in legal matters pertaining to the city operations and interests. Prepare ordinances and resolutions that come before the city council for consideration. Attend city council staff and other meetings when requested. Draft and review contract agreements, leases, and other legal documents pertaining to the city as requested by the mayor. Respond to requests of the Arkansas Freedom of Information Act when requested. Update policies and ordinances to maintain compliance with changes in state and federal law. Work without outside counsel, including the Arkansas Municipal League Council on legal matters pertaining to city and city employees as necessary. Section 3, the city attorney permitted to maintain and participate in private practice, but shall not do so in a manner that conflicts with his or her duties assigned herein. Section 4, the compensation of the city attorney's legal services shall be $1,800 per month. The city council shall provide individual insurance with the option to participate in a family plan provided by municipal health insurance. For any hours above 20 hours per month, hours must be billed at a rate of $200, shall be billed at a rate of $200 per hour. The city attorney shall be allowed to participate in Arkansas Public Retirement System. The city is responsible for all court filing fees, disposition, transcript costs, expert fees, process server fees, postage expenses, all other costs associated with the city attorney offices shall be negotiated by the mayor and city attorney subject to final approval by a majority of the city council. A separate agreement prescribing compensation, other fees, expenses, and non-statutory benefits to be paid to the city attorney may be entered into and approved by the mayor and city council. Section 5, the city attorney shall provide a monthly billing report indicating actual time spent on matters performed in connection with representation of the city. New fees or costs expended by the city attorney in relation to any matter performed in connection with the representation of the city by the city attorney will be set forth in a monthly billing statement. All work performed by the city attorney shall be billed in increments of fifths of an hour. Payment by the city shall be due and payable within 30 days following submission of a monthly billing report to the city. Section 6, all reports, records, documents, all other materials prepared by the city attorney in conformance with assigned duties shall be the property of the city, shall be delivered to the city upon request. Section 5, the mayor and city council specifically reserve the right to retain outside counsel on all matters at a rate up to $250 per hour, including civil or criminal litigation, prosecution of all criminal and civil city of Beebe code violations occurring within the corporate limits of the city of Beebe, prosecution of all misdemeanor criminal violations occurring within the corporate limits of the city of Beebe, or where Beebe lies in the Beebe District Court, and any appeals of the same to White County Circuit Court shall be informed by Arkansas licensed attorney. The mayor may negotiate a separate agreement with criminal city council for legal services defined as and under the guidelines of city prosecutors. All racial forms of fair and consistent shall be repealed. So you have two, just as the statute lays it out under 1442-122, you have an appointed city attorney position for you may have an elected city attorney. To be outlined by city ordinance. I have looked at municipally, you may want for help with this was arrived at as far as $1,800 a month, and then individual health insurance and retirement. Arrived at Arkansas Municipal League part-time city attorney based upon an average more of 20 to 25 hours per week. At a average pay of $4 hours.
I'll make a motion, we adopt the first ordinance. One, it's the way we've always done it.
So we have a motion on the floor to adopt the ordinance establish an office city attorney for the city of Beebe, shall be filled by appointment, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Good. And a second?
Yes.
Any other discussion on that? Make all the road.
Alderman Duggar,
Yes.
Alderman Goff,
Yes.
Alderman Mahoney,
Yes.
Alderman Woods,
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot,
Yes.
Alderman Anthony.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see,
And do we need to adopt emergency clause and in section 8 city council?
pardon me?
We probably need to adopt emergency clause and then in section 8 city council is not spelled right.
Yes. So that would be ordinance number what?
2022-01,
First one.
first one. I'll get that spelling.
Oh,
And that would be adoption with the emergency clause. That's it.
Second.
Okay, so we're gonna adopt the emergency clause to ordinance number 2022-01. I'm gonna call the roll. Alderman Duggar,
Yes.
Alderman Goff,
Yes.
Alderman Mahoney,
Yes.
Alderman Woods,
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot,
Yes.
Alderman Anthony.
Okay,
I got a question, man. Now that we just done that, what do we need to do about our city attorney as of right now? You, okay, never mind. Sorry, you're ahead of me.
we'll make copies of that for us for a minute. Didn't make copies, I just didn't know how we were gonna go, so I didn't go ahead and make copies.
Well, kind of waiting around for that, I was glad to see the sidewalk project getting started on
Yeah,
Center Street.
everybody is,
Along the way.
they've been pretty good on it.
They've done a pretty good job going around that big tree.
Yeah.
I was real interested to see how they were gonna do that.
Wait a minute.
Well, I think we gotta go around one on College Street.
Forget Walmart to help with us on that. We never did. Walmart never did help us out on that.
No, they haven't yet, but give them a little time there.
Wait till they see that one done and make them copy into it.
Maybe they're ready to step up.
You can see Tampa. But they're, I bet they will. Because I mean, there's a lot of people here walking, oh, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And they're always right there in the road, right where people turn, every time.
You ready to review this, with the ordinance 2022?
2202.
It's an ordinance establishing the office of city attorney of city prosecuting attorney for the city being described as duties there, declaring the emergency existing for other purposes. Whereas Arkansas Code 1443-313 provides that the city council will prescribe the duties of the city attorney by ordinance. Whereas the city council did not assign the duties of prosecution in the Beebe Department of White County District Court to the city attorney. Whereas there is a need to establish the office of city prosecuting attorney. Now therefore be ordained by the council of city Beebe, the office of city attorney is hereby, prosecuting attorney is hereby established. Section 2, the city prosecuting attorney's responsibilities are: A, prosecute all criminal and civil city of Beebe code violations occurring within the corporate limits of the city of Beebe. B, prosecute all misdemeanor criminal violations occurring within the corporate limits of the city of Beebe. C, prosecute all appeals of code violations and or criminal violations in the White County Circuit Court. D, advise the police department on legal matters pertaining to the Arkansas Freedom of Information Act when requested. E, handle any civil litigation arising from matters involving the Arkansas Freedom of Information Act. F, assist the city attorney with providing civil defense when requested or when the city prosecuting attorney has knowledge relating to civil claims. Section 3, prosecuting attorney is permitted to maintain and participate in a private law practice, but not do so in a manner that conflicts with his or her duties assigned herein. Section 4, the compensation of the city prosecuting attorney shall be set by resolution. The city shall provide individual health insurance with the option to provide and family friends provided by municipal health insurance. The city is responsible for all court filing fees, disposition, transcript costs, expert fees, process server fees, post expenses. All other costs associated with the city prosecuting attorney office shall be negotiated by the mayor and city prosecuting attorney, subject to final approval by the majority of the city council. A separate agreement describing the compensation, other fees, expenses, and non-statutory benefits to be paid to the city prosecuting attorney may be entered into and approved by the mayor and city council. All reports, records, documents, and other materials prepared by the city prosecuting attorney in performance of the assigned duty shall be the property of the city and shall be delivered to the city upon request. Section 7, the mayor or city council specifically reserves the right to retain outside counsel on all matters at a rate up to $250 per hour, including civil or criminal litigation. The mayor shall have the power to appoint and remove the prosecuting attorney, both of which are subject to council veto by 2/3 majority of the whole membership of the council. All ordinances and provisions therein consistent with this ordinance shall hereby repealed. This ordinance being necessary as to protect the health, safety, and welfare of citizens of the city of emergency is hereby declared to exist, and this ordinance shall be in full force and in effect from and after its passage.
Motion to approve is read.
Second.
Alderman Decker,
Yes.
Yes.
Alderman Mahoney,
Yes.
Alderman Woods,
Yes.
Alderman Lightfoot,
Yes.
Alderman Anthony. Yes.
I didn't see them.
Section 10
Yes.
is one, but it's not written clause.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and adopt the emergency clause, which is section 10.
So moved.
Second.
Is that you, Gary? Sorry. Alderman Duggar,
Yes.
Alderman Goff,
Yes.
Alderman Mahoney,
Yes.
Alderman Woods. Yes. Alderman Lightfoot,
Yes.
Alderman Anthony.
Hey, that concludes the agenda unless you all have something else.
Yes. Thank you.
Anybody?
Motion to adjourn.
We've had so many of them. Think about it.